The 2025 hurricane season is heating up, and the Bahamas has already been brushed by one of its fiercest storms. 5 tropical storms and 1 explosive hurricane have already churned through the Atlantic. Category 5 Erin raced past the Caribbean at 160 miles per hour, brushing the Bahamian Islands and sending dangerous swells and rip currents across our shores. Now, Tropical Storm Fernand is strengthening far out at sea. And with the season's peak almost here, the question is, are we ready for what's next? This is RTV Presents Storm Navigator. Good evening and welcome to our second special report on the 2025 hurricane season. I'm your host, Jasmine Brown, back with meteorologist Greg Thompson. Hi, Greg.
Hi, Jasmine. It's been quite a busy season since we last spoke. And over the next 30 minutes, we'll take the audience on a journey through storms we've seen so far and what they need to do to stay prepared.
Absolutely. Preparedness is our focus tonight. And I know you've been tracking the developments closely, Greg. So before we dive into our stories, can you walk us through what's happened so far this season?
Well, we've had already 6 named storms for the season, 1 hurricane, and that hurricane was Erin. We'll remember that, but we'll take you through that. We did have early in the season, we had Andrea, which was out there in the open Atlantic, very short-lived storms, most of the tropical storms for the season. Andrea, then we had Barry. Barry moved into Mexico, short-lived. And then we picked up Chantel that moved along the eastern seaboard of the United States of America. Then we picked up Dexter. And of course, as I mentioned, Erin. Erin formed out there by the Cape Verde Islands, moved across the Atlantic, strengthened to a very powerful Category 5 storm as it brushed near the Bahamas, just to the east of us. And it lost some of its punch. But as it continued to move to the northeast and away from us, it stayed out there in the open Atlantic and fizzled out, becoming a post-tropical storm later on. And then, of course, we had Fernand, which actually did weaken quite a bit during the early part of the season.
And Greg, I'm curious, were forecasters really concerned about a possible turn by Erin, especially considering its size?
Yeah, Erin was actually forecasted to come a little further west. We were anticipating the trough moving off the United States to pick this storm up earlier. But fortunate for us, it did pick the storm up and turned it just before it got to the Bahamas. But a very powerful storm, a Category 5 storm. And of course, we remember Dorian, so Erin would have been just a repeat of Dorian.
And as Erin brushed past the Bahamian Islands, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force was on high alert. Commodore Moxie told our news that Marines were ready to respond immediately if the storm had shifted toward our shores. Meanwhile, Moxie added that the force had already been preparing ships and personnel well in advance.
We are preparing the ships in the event that they need to do hurricane avoidance. The hurricane platoon is standing by. We have done drills and disaster preparedness exercise for events like this over the past few months, so we are prepared. The disaster recovery ship, HMBS Lawrence Major, is being made ready in case we will need to load her with the container city for any part of the country that may be impacted. Once any part of the carbon belt of the Bahamas is threatened by the storm, then I will cancel leave and we would, everyone will come into the Coral Harbor base and we will enact the hurricane orders and the hurricane plans.
Erin also prompted key government agencies to step up preparations, with officials urging residents, especially in the southern islands, to get ready.
All eyes are on Tropical Storm Erin. Hurricane forecasters say the system is expected to strengthen into a hurricane and possibly a major hurricane within days, the first of the 2025 hurricane season. For now, projected tracks do not indicate a direct hit to the Bahamas. State Minister with responsibility for disaster risk management Leon Lundy says his team has been in preparation mode for months and now is keeping a close watch on Erin's progress. While it's still too early to determine the storm's exact path, officials are urging residents in the southern islands to make preparations now. And should Erin turn southwest, officials here at BPL says their crew stands ready for whatever comes their way.
We anticipate by Sunday we'll know exactly what is going to happen to it, whether it's going to turn or come more toward the south. And again, our teams are just bracing themselves and making sure that they're able to respond to any incident that impacts them, flooding or pole damage or otherwise. So yeah, we have our managers every day or every week would update me in regard to that.
Officials are urging customers to take time now to trim trees away from power lines and secure their properties ahead of any potential impact, ensuring a faster restoration process. BPL COO Anthony Christie says they're also in close contact with the National Emergency Agency, monitoring Erin's track closely.
The DRM has established, they have weekly meetings, so we have representatives there. So our presence is always a part of the discussion in terms of our preparedness and all things that are needed. And each of the members of that group, I guess, support each other in terms of hurricane preparation through whatever resources needed, whether it be shipment of materials, equipment, the communications through the Alive or BTC, as well as through the island administrator, and all that is being coordinated.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Delvado Emmanuel.
And the world just saw its third warmest July on record, according to the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service. Slightly cooler than the record-breaking Julys of 2023 and 2024, this past July was still 1.25 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Scientists say that heat fueled extreme worldwide temperatures, from deadly floods to Turkey hitting a scorching 123 degrees Fahrenheit. Copernicus's director warns the streak of record months may have paused, but climate change hasn't. Without cuts to greenhouse gases, he says more record heat and more disasters are inevitable. And Greg, I want to bring you back now, because with the world seeing record heat, I'm wondering, is that playing a role in how active or intense this hurricane season has been, especially with storms like Erin?
Yeah, of course, we are worried about climate change and the heating of the planet. The last couple of years have been extremely warm, and the heat is contributing to the warmer water temperatures. And of course, the water provides the fuel for these storms. Leisure in the upper levels and the warm waters do cause these storms to really intensify. And as you mentioned, we are starting to see those effects all around the globe.
Could the higher global temperatures, like July hitting over 123 degrees Fahrenheit, be contributing to the rapid strengthening we saw with Hurricane Erin?
That's still a study in progress. And of course, with the climate change taking place, we are doing some real research to make sure that we can get a handle on this rapid intensification. If anything was an indication for that, Erin strengthening from a Category 1 to a Category 5 storm in 24 hours, that is unheard of. So, yeah, heat is playing a very important part in the intensification of these storms.
And putting Erin aside for a moment, you've also been keeping an eye on Fernand, which popped up right after Erin. What can you tell us about that storm?
Fernand wasn't a very powerful storm. It was a tropical storm, weakened rather quickly, but the effects of Erin, upwelling the cooler waters in portions of the Atlantic, did hinder the storm from getting its act together. So yeah, it's basically Erin helping us in a bit.
And with that, Greg, I want to move to the remaining storm names for this season. We've got Gabrielle, Umberto, Imelda, Jerry.
And then there's Karen, Lorenzo, and Melissa.
Coming up, we'll talk about why getting prepared early really matters and hear straight from residents on whether they're ready if a storm heads our way. Plus, we'll run through the rest of this season's storm names and see if NOAA's predictions are still holding true. Don't go anywhere. Storm Navigator continues right after this. Welcome back to Storm Navigator, our second special on the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. I'm your host, Jasmine Brown, with meteorologist Greg Thompson. Thanks for staying with us as we guide you through the season together. We now bring you the remaining potential storm names for the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, beginning with Nestor, Olga, Pablo, Rebecca.
And then there are the final names left this season: Sebastian, Tanya, Van, and Wendy. And that rounds out the remaining names for the potential storms for the season. You'll be able to find the full listing at ournews.bs.
Last season was intense with 18 named storms and 5 major hurricanes. This year, forecasters expect slightly above average activity. So far, 5 tropical storms and Hurricane Erin have already brushed past the Bahamas. Greg, is that forecast still holding true today?
Yes, it is. Slightly below. They decreased the numbers for the named storms and the hurricanes, but they still expect an above season. And these are the numbers. NOAA, National Hurricane Center, still giving 13 to 18 named storms, 5 to 9 of those becoming hurricanes, 2 to 5 of them becoming major hurricanes. Colorado State, which is another reputable institute that we use the numbers, 16 named storms, 8 of those becoming hurricanes, and 3 becoming major hurricanes over the course. And then there's a 30-year average, 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 of those becoming major storms for the season. And Jasmine, when it comes to hurricanes, not every threat looks the same. Most of us think about strong winds, and Erin was certainly one to pack quite a punch with 160 mile-per-hour winds. But here in the Bahamas, it's often the water that puts us most at risk. Here are some things to keep in mind. When you do make preparations for the hurricane season, protect your home, cover your windows, secure your doors, and loose items around your yard. Determine sheltering options and consider your pets. And of course, prepare your travel bags, medicines and supplies, charge your phones, and fill up your car and charge your vehicles. Help your neighbors, specifically the elderly and other vulnerable people, and also follow evacuation orders if given. And now that I've shared those tips, Erin's rapid spin-up was a reminder that now is the time to start getting ready. Having the essentials on hand could make all the difference for you and your family.
Hurricanes, the only natural disaster to give ample warnings, but the best defense in a hurricane is still preparation. First, a basic but crucial tip. Make sure you have at least 5 gallons of water per person in your household. Stock up on non-perishable foods, batteries, flashlights, and a first aid kit. And don't forget essential medications and copies of important documents stored safely in waterproof bags. Another good idea is to take photos of your documents and store them in a secure cloud. Securing your home is next. It's recommended that you close and board windows, tie down loose items outside, and check that your roof and doors are secure. Experts also say it's important to have an evacuation plan ready, know your nearest shelter, and make sure your car has a full tank of gas. If you have pets, have a plan to board them or place them somewhere safe, as not all shelters are pet-friendly. Communication is also key during the time of a storm. Charge your phones and have a battery-powered radio to stay updated. The National Emergency Management Agency reminds us all to heed the warnings and avoid unnecessary risk. Well, although Erin may be some distance away from being a real threat, it's never too early to prepare. Reporting for our news, I'm Natalia Hall.
Great tips to get prepared. But now that we're approaching the peak of the hurricane season, the big question is, are Bahamians really ready? Some say yes, while others admit they've still got a ways to go.
With the threat of Hurricane Erin looming, Bahamians we spoke to said they are ready should the storm take an unexpected turn. These Bahamians shared with us what they did well in advance to protect their homes and families.
Well, I got my storm shutters and everything and put them up, and that's it.
You have like water, like batteries, like stuff like that?
Oh, as far as that stuff, I have water, light, and I have equipment.
I have all the shadows and other stuff like that. And, I have them ready and prepared anytime I need them.
But while those Bahamians have already prepared for the possibility of a storm, these Bahamians say they're currently making preparations.
I'm going to try to get some canned goods and stuff, and try to pay up some bills if it is possible before I reach.
Buy candles, flashlight, make sure I have stock upon canned goods, stuff like that.
Erin strengthened into a hurricane early Friday as the storm continued on its path over the Atlantic Ocean. It's the first named hurricane for the 2025 Atlantic season. Forecasters are urging people in the Caribbean islands and Miami to monitor Erin's progress, warning of the potential for heavy rainfall and life-threatening surf and rip current conditions. Friday morning, Erin packed maximum sustained winds of 75 miles per hour, making it a Category 1 hurricane.
I am believing, through the grace of God, that it will not make a turn.
The last major storm to hit the Bahamas was Monster Storm Dorian back in 2019. Nearly 6 years later, Bahamians tell us they don't think the country has taken sufficient steps to prepare for the possibility of another major storm.
I think government needs to tighten up on these backstrokes and try and make preparation for the people like in my age, senior people and thing, because it's rough for us.
And from residents who say they're prepared for the hurricane season, here are steps they say you should take to get ready.
The best thing is be prepared. Because if you're not prepared, you're going to get hit.
First of all, make your connection with God to ensure that He is hearing you. And then from there, you do what you can to help yourself. God help those that help themselves.
Reporting for our news, I'm Berthany McDermott.
And up next, the National Hurricane Center giving us more time to prepare. They'll explain what's changed in the alert system this season when Storm Navigator returns. Welcome back to our second installment of Storm Navigator, the 2025 Hurricane Special. Thanks for staying with us. So far this season, we've already seen 5 tropical storms and 1 hurricane. That's right on pace with what forecasters predicted, and another above normal year in the Atlantic. We've watched storms like Barry, which brought flooding to Mexico and Belize, and Chantal, which dumped heavy rain from Florida up through the Carolinas. Andrea and Dexter fizzled out, but Aaron reminded us how fast things can change, exploding into a Category 5 before thankfully turning away from the Bahamas and the U.S. East Coast. And most recently, Fernand spun up east of Bermuda, staying far from land, but still a reminder that conditions are primed for more activity. NOAA now predicts 13 to 18 named storms this season, with up to 9 hurricanes and as many as 5 major storms. In other words, the prediction of an active season is holding steady. So what happens when a storm is approaching? The alert system is designed to guide your response, but only if you understand it. We go back to meteorologist Greg Thompson to get familiar with the language. And Greg, storm language can sound pretty technical, but what do people really need to know to stay prepared?
Yes, be prepared. Of course, as you mentioned, the alert system we have in place here in the Bahamas, we do have an alert that we issue prior to systems getting here. That's about 72 hours, so we're giving you a lot of lead time. And then there's the normal watches and warning, tropical storm and hurricane watches and warnings. Tropical storm watch is issued when the systems are possible or conditions possible within 48 hours of getting into your area. Of course, preparing your location, your home, and the necessary things, supply kits for your hurricane preparation should be in place. And then we have the tropical storm warning, which is 36 hours. That means tropical storm conditions are occurring at your location or within the next 36 hours. So we're asking you to follow the advice of officials and be ready to make sure you can get to shelters if need be.
And Greg, we've been hearing a lot about these tropical waves rolling off the coast of Africa, and they seem to be happening more frequently this year. Forecasters say that's something worth paying close attention to, especially with how it can shape the rest of the season. Can you break down why these waves matter so much and what kind of impact they could have for us here in the Bahamas?
So there's a combination of things going on across Africa. We have the low-level African jet, and we also have the monsoon trough, which actually pumps a lot of moisture into the tropical areas of Africa, actually. So with the moisture and the African jet, these are the impetus of these systems moving across. And once they get off of the African coast, we see these tropical waves moving across the Atlantic and tropical belt. And it's these systems that we continue to watch. We're starting to see an uptick in the frequency of these things moving across, or these systems moving across Africa. And that's all in combination to climate change. And we're starting to see a lot more moisture moving into the African region due to the monsoon trough. And they will continue to keep us very busy for the Atlantic's hurricane season that's going on right now.
All right, good to know. Thanks for that, Greg. In this edition of Storm Navigator, we bring the focus to Grand Bahama, an island that's no stranger to powerful storms. And with the anniversary of Monster Storm Dorian just hours away, preparedness is top of mind. The Grand Bahama Port Authority says it's working directly with residents to make sure they're ready long before another storm arrives.
From trimming trees to securing homes, hurricane prep can sometimes feel like a last-minute scramble, especially as residents in the southern Bahamas raced to prepare as Hurricane Aaron made its way north. But city leaders in Freeport, Grand Bahama say it doesn't have to be that way.
preparedness, making sure that loose debris around your house is removed. Don't wait till the hurricane season, June 1st, but you're preparing all summer long or all year round.
GBPA Deputy Director and City Manager Troy McIntosh says one of the biggest lessons from Hurricane Dorian wasn't just efficiency inside the Port Authority, it was education in the community.
A large majority, upward of 80%, weren't up to as it relates to their physical address. Some may know the street name, some may know the lot number, some may have known their subdivisions. And so educating them with your legal description, as it's called, because you want restoration, they want to get power turned on, they want to get inspections, but from the building development standpoint or city management standpoint, we needed this information.
McIntosh says education now goes beyond addresses. It includes everything from understanding insurance policies to knowing exactly how much water to store.
Because if you ask the average person, hey, you're supposed to have 5 gallons of water per person in your home right now. Do you have it? Do you have it?
Yes.
5 gallon bottles of water. Five gallon bottles of water.
So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Per person in your household.
No.
And a lot of it is education, putting the necessary things in place to make sure you have the tools and not wait until the last minute.
And McIntosh says he believes shifting the culture of preparedness will take the same approach as a catchy jingle. Constant repetition, keeping preparedness top of mind all year round. Reporting for Our News, I'm Kendino Notes.
When we come back from the break, we highlight Hurricane Erin relief efforts in the Turks and Caicos and how communities came together in the storm's wake. And with Dorian's 6th anniversary just hours away, we'll also reflect on the lessons that storm still teaches about staying prepared. Storm Navigator is back right after this. You're watching Storm Navigator, the 2025 Hurricane Special. Thanks so much for keeping our company tonight. So far, we've seen just how important it is to have a plan. Forecasters are calling for up to 19 named storms, including as many as 5 major hurricanes. That's why now's the time to stock up, know your evacuation route, and stay connected with trusted sources like us. And before we wrap up tonight, while our residents in the southern Bahamas were thankfully spared from any major impact by Hurricane Erin, we want to put the spotlight on the Turks and Caicos. After Erin passed through, these images show troops on the ground helping communities recover. The Turks and Caicos Islands Regiment shared that their teams were deployed across North, Middle, and South Caicos, lending a hand where it was needed most. As our brothers and sisters in the South faced the storm, it was a powerful reminder that we can come together in times of need, not just here at home, but across the region. And with the 6th anniversary of Dorian just hours away, the lessons from that storm are still with us, guiding how we prepare and protect one another today. And Greg, as we look back at those efforts and ahead to the rest of the season, what's the most important thing Bahamians should keep in mind to stay prepared?
Well, we are approaching the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. Of course, we are asking you to get all the necessary hurricane preparations in place, as we do expect this to still be an above average hurricane season.
When Erin briefly strengthened to a Category 5, did you ever think not another Dorian?
No, we don't need another Dorian. Of course, Dorian did quite a bit of damage. So Erin fortunately turned before it got here, but we still felt some of the out effects from that system.
And Greg, what's been your biggest takeaway so far this season?
Preparation. We only had 6 storms already, but we are approaching the meat of the season, which is late August into early September. And we do still expect a lot of systems to be affecting us, or at least staying out there in the open Atlantic during the rest of the season.
Thanks so much, Greg. I know our audience is in a much better place now with all the crucial information you shared.
Stay prepared.
And thank you all for joining us for this second installment of Storm Navigator, the 2025 Hurricane Special. Remember, planning ahead beats panicking later. On behalf of meteorologist Greg Thompson and the entire RTV team, I'm Jasmine Brown. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and as always, keep it locked to Our News.